Tsao-Lin Moy, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
The title of your book really gets to the heart of the matter for a lot of people, saying, will I ever get pregnant? The Smart Woman's Guide to Getting Pregnant Naturally Over 40. You know, Cho, I have known many women in great despair as they've gotten older, especially into their mid 30s. A lot of women who just sort of took it for granted in their younger years. Oh, I'll just have a baby whenever I want to. And then the circumstances of their lives were such that it was only when they got to, let's say, their mid 30s that they said, okay, I'm ready, and are finding often that it's not as easy as they thought it was going to be. What do you say to that woman?
Well, thank you for asking that question. And really, what I say to those women is that there's always hope. There's always a way. And, this is on the one hand, we've got, women that are, that as they age, they get more mature, they get more wisdom, they have their careers, and then they suddenly, are put to make the decision, do I become a mom or not? And it's really hard. It's a hard decision. I mean, the beauty is that we also live in a time where there is technology and there are choices available, including things like IVF and IUI. So what I found is that, sometimes they think that that's all that there is, and they kind of go down this path of like, oh, it's not going to happen. Will it ever happen? I can't succeed.
But you're saying that there's a more natural way, a different way of doing medicine, a different way of trying to get pregnant, that the old way really isn't working so much, the more patriarchal modes, the sort of old-fashioned allopathic way. You're really opening a new a space of opportunity for women who want to get pregnant, aren't you?
Yes. Well, actually, it's kind of like a new old way, right? What is it like in more of a Western model? They really like kind of like, you have a problem, let's fix it. And what happens is when, with women, they tend to blame themselves. Maybe they regret the choices that they've made, and they maybe believe that there is something wrong. And so what happens is when they go to research, like how can I get pregnant, or they put their age in, that what they'll get is a lot of negative information about why their egg reserve is like diminishing. And really it's a statistic, but it's not necessarily true for them. And so what I offer is, and a lot of women that I see have already tried the Western model IV, and they failed, and then they're really in a space of panic. And so the new way, or really to look at it, is from a whole health perspective. Like when when you're healthy all around, your reproductive health is also good. Like they go together. And so just focusing on the fertility part, they can end up going down a rabbit hole of more problems that become the focus versus really the solutions. And a lot of times it's just taking a step back and like changing a few things, and helping them to see what other opportunities, and also what's in alignment for them too.
I have found, I think we all have, you hear about women over 40 having children these days in a way we never used to, women who are 43, et cetera. Is that just my imagination, or is that actually happening?
No, it is actually happening. And well, here's the thing with women, when the statistics will show up for the people who are having problems. So it'll look like a lot of women are having fertility issues. But what isn't really measured are a lot of the women that just naturally it's happening for them. And you do hear that they are getting pregnant. I mean, one thing we have right now is we have better nutrition. We have much more awareness around vitamins and health, right? So, yes.
Is this the kind of guidance that you give women? What are the kinds of techniques? What are the things that you do? What is the kind of advice that you give to a woman who comes into you? She's over 35, she's nervous, she's not getting pregnant, she doesn't necessarily want to go the old IVF way. What are the things that you tell this woman? I mean, I know you've said there are other
Yeah.
ways. What are
Yes.
those other ways?
Okay. So one of the very first things that we have to do is we got to work on your fertility mindset. We've got to clear out like all of the, going on into the chat rooms, all the negative stuff because that is just going to continue to look for the same problem over and over again. The next thing that we'll do is we'll look at like really working on where are you in your cycle? Like you need to know your body. A lot of this panic is women not feeling confident in their body or even knowing when they're actually fertile. So these are like things that they can do, and to create it as a practice, and for them to know that every day they're moving forward, doing something. Right. And then from there, they have a lot more clarity and information to really be able to make informed choices about if they are going to go and do, IVF or IUI. And that's really like the very beginning. And then we can talk about details of herbs or, acupuncture, because that's really very personalized. So working with someone personalized. And so to help them to, to be directed in a way that's going to work for them.
I've heard you speak about the changes in medicine and how you feel that there's an old model of medicine that basically leaves women out, pushes us to the side, doesn't really make our health needs and challenges front and center. Do you feel that that's changing?
I feel in some ways yes, and in some ways no. It's really the fact that there is a lot that's available to women now, and you see it in companies that are with younger women, that they're opening up for being able to freeze eggs. We also see that there's more opportunities for women to actually have babies on their own because of the technology and the medicine. And then on the other hand, there's the old guard that I think is really left over from the last century of women being emotional and hysterical, and their issues kind of like give them a drug or something, and not really looking at the fact that they are like the caregivers, that they are also working, that they have a lot more things to take care of than, let's say, a male does. And so medicine has been kind of like women historically with medicine have been kind of like a off to the side, a little bit. Usually it's more for like, how do we treat a male, let's say for a knee replacement, and then for a woman, and then later they figure out, oh, we need to make a different size to fit women.
Well,
So
I
there's
remember reading several years ago when all of the tests being done on breast cancer were done on men. And of course, psychologically, some of the syndromes that we've talked about, we realize certain reactions that we thought were human reactions actually turned out to be men's reactions, not necessarily women's. One last question I want to ask you. You mentioned a woman freezing her eggs. This is a conversation among a lot of young women today. First of all, do you recommend it? And if you do, at what age do you recommend that a woman start thinking about this?
okay, this is a really big discussion in the reproductive world, right? Because on the one hand, if you can preserve your eggs, you can. The outcome, they really don't know what the outcome is with freezing eggs and then defrosting them and fertilizing them. Right now in the IVF world, that now with embryos, they recommend that they test them genetically. Then they will freeze them and wait for the genetic test. And then they look for when the woman's uterus is the most receptive, and then figure out like when they would do a transfer. So that maximizes the success rate. So now what's happening is they really recommend to do genetic testing in the IVF world, so that they don't transfer an embryo that might have a genetic issue. So there's that aspect. Now, if you freeze the eggs and then you fertilize them, I don't know if you can refreeze them and test them. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that yes, you'll have like a younger follicle. Mm-hmm. The thing is that you won't necessarily know, and like when you do the transfer, you probably wouldn't refreeze and test, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a little bit of a big unknown, and really all of these women freezing their eggs. I mean, I think there's a good aspect to it. I also think it's a big money industry right now too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I feel a lot of compassion for young women these days who are trying to balance all of these things. And I hear far too many young people today say, I'm not going to have a child because I don't know how we'll be able to afford it. And then they get older, they feel finally they could afford it and are now having the kind of difficulties medically that you speak to. So they're very fortunate to have you. And I can see that your manner and your guidance and your professional expertise would be a great, great help to so many of these couples. And I hope that many more will find everything they want under your care and guidance, and that will lead to far more beautiful babies coming onto the planet because those people met you. So thank you so much, and all my very best with your very important work.
Thank you, Marianne.